Well, we've made it to the halfway mark of 2024, and it's a good chance to kind of take stock. To look back, see where we're going, see where we've come, and yeah, we're like in the heat of the summer. It's like prime time for summer. So I've got some beach waves going on in the background. I've got my summertime shirts going on, and I got some good music to talk about. We've had some really interesting new music come out of the woodwork this year, and I wanted to celebrate that. So here are 10 of my favorite releases of the first half of 2024. As with all these lists, I'm not saying that these are the absolute best. I'm not saying that these are the be-all, end-all. I'm just saying that out of 2024, these were the 10 albums that hit me the hardest. These are the ones that I've been listening to the most, and these are the ones that I've been excited to re-listen to. After I go through and review albums, 9 times out of 10, I put the album on the shelf and I don't necessarily return to it until the year-end list. But these are the ones that have kind of been circulating through my head all the time. I'm not sure if that's a word, but I'm going to stick with it, circulating. Before we dive into the full 10 list, I've got a couple of honorable mentions that I at least want to shout out at the very beginning. I'm going to have all the items right here for you, which is why I'm a little off center. So, kind of got 4 kind of right off the get-go. Topiary Creatures with Metaphysical Tech Support Hotline, Azure's Fim, Professor Caffeine, and the Insecurities, their self-titled debut album, and the Dirt Poor Robin's Firebird. Kind of rapid-firing these, all 4 of these. They all feel very, very similar. It's this kind of modern prog that I'm really, really getting into and I'm really enjoying. They're kind of taking a page out of the Thank You Scientist or Deer Hunter or whatever. You're kind of playing with some jazzy aspects of it. You got some longer compositions, but like the word of the day for all 4 of these records are fun. They're all super duper fun, and I've loved every moment of spinning these albums. Those out of the way, let's get into my top 10. Listing them out, So, yeah, we'll start off with number 10. I'm not going to do the whole countdown thing. Well, I kind of am, but I'm not going to do the whole tile card. This is just a loosey-goosey, free-flowing fun time. So number 10, I'm going to try this. It's Nemontin Hauta, I think is how you pronounce it, with Primatine Lasky Joki, or Yoki, I believe it is. This is some great, deep, dark, black metal. I picked it up on cassette tape, and that is probably the best way to listen to it. It's got that distortion, it's got that raw energy, it's got that power towards it. This is one of those black metal records that I've been really spinning really heavily. I got into kind of the extreme black metal last year with Liturgy and Victory Over the Sun, but since then I've kind of, really stretched my boundaries and really discovered a lot of really great music. And this one kind of rose to the top for me. Just guttural, intense, but not extremely brutal in that way. They're using an atmosphere and elements to create just a symphony of sound rather than just being brutal 100% of the time. So I've really been enjoying that. Number 9, I got to give it to Kacey Musgrave with her Deeper Well album. I'm still kind of on the fence if I like this more than Golden Hour, but I've been really loving this one. This was what kind of turned me on to Kacey Musgraves, and then I went back and I listened to all of her other stuff. I actually found out I didn't realize this, but through her Christmas music, because I have a couple of her Christmas songs saved to playlists throughout the year. It's kind of like this new pop era for women artists that I'm really enjoying. And in fact, I've got a couple more on here that kind of follow this suit. But, in that very independent artist, very, as I mentioned, homegrown, but not going straight up Americana, but kind of blending the line between country and pop. And I think Kacey is doing such a really good job on this album of kind of balancing her 2 ideologies in that way. And it created a very fun and very pleasurable journey. And the record that I picked up from her is the one that's scented. So, whenever I pick it up, I'm like, ooh, smells like hippie. All right, moving on to number 8, we have Sleep Makes Waves, one word, of It's Here, But I Have No Name For It. This is one of my favorite post-rock records that I've heard in a very, very long time. I think the only one that kind of comes close is Mogwai's last record, and I love that record. It was one of my top 5 of the years that it came out, but this one just kind of does something very different with the post-rock genre that I haven't really heard too much from any artist that's kind of playing within this genre. I love that they're trying something a little bit more harsher. They're doing some really harder stuff, but it isn't just straight up like math rock, because I feel like some post rock can get really into the math rock weeds, and I really like how this one takes its time, but still has those really good build-ups and those really good payoffs, and that's what I come to math rock. Well, that's what I come to math rock for, but that's also what I come for post rock for. Post rock is great in those big crescendos, those big oomphs. So I've really been enjoying my time with that. All right, coming into the 7 with Aquilus with Bellum 2. I was really surprised about this record. Again, getting into some really brutal metal, getting into some really intense stuff. What I love about this is that it's blending like the classical music, and I know a lot of other kind of death metal stuff has been, playing around with this, like Opeth and a lot of those type of like more proggy metal stuff in that sense. But this one was like a full on like symphonic death metal. And I've been loving this one. I love how deep this track goes, and I love how deep this music is. I love how like symphonic it is as well. It really is like a symphonic death metal, and I really appreciate that, and I really wish that more artists and more bands would do that. So yeah, really had to applaud Aquilus for Bellum 2. Number 6 goes to Chelsea Wolfe with her She Reaches Out to She Reaches Out to She. Been loving Chelsea Wolfe. Love how textured a lot of her music is. I love everything that she did in her past with, like, I believe it was like the Blood Moon series. I'm still kind of waiting for number 2. But her playing with textures in the music, her ability to really create something unique and something multi-layered within the vocals, within the harmonizations, within the music itself. This really could be like a soundtrack to a horror movie, but kind of like an A24 horror movie, which is much more atmospheric and a lot more like intellectual. Well, maybe not intellectual, but definitely like much more atmospheric, I think is a better way to put it. It's not just, ooh, big scary monster coming out to eat you, right? There's layers, there's psychological things that go along with it. And I really love the different layers and the different aspects of this record. So yeah, that's why I had to give number 6 to Chelsea Wolfe. Number 5, coming into the second half here of the list, goes to the Lemon Twigs with A Dream Is All We Have. I've always kind of been on the periphery when it comes to the Lemon Twigs. I know a lot of my friends love the Lemon Twigs, so I had to check it out. Their last album perked my interest. It was very Simon and Garfunkel. It was very Hall & Oates, very singer-songwriter of the 70s. And this one kind of continued that progression of the band, but going much more into a Beach Boys, Beatles, kind of like the 60s, kind of happy rock. I can't think of a better word for it, but it's kind of got that Jeff Lynne ELO feel to it at times. It's very happy. And in a time where there's not a lot to be happy about, I love the fact that the Lemon Twigs are coming in here and providing some music that's wholesome, And yeah, sure, you could find nitpick problems with this record. It's too derivative of its sources. It's not independent enough. It doesn't have its own voice. But I don't know, if the music slaps, then let it slap. So yeah, I've been loving Lemon Twigs, and I would be shocked if it wasn't on my top 10 of the year. Coming in at number 4 is an album that I just recently reviewed last week, and that was Beth Gibbons' Lives Outgrown. This is an album that the more I listen to, the more I get out of it. Like, it's very subdued. It's very, intimate as well. But there's so much to discover on this, Like, I feel like Peter Gabriel's DNA found all throughout this. And the one artist that I use a lot when comparing her songwriting, her composition of sounds, and her overall presentation of her art is very similar to a Roger Waters, at least in terms of tone, in terms of composition, maybe not necessarily the subject matter, but definitely in terms of like that introspective, very thought-provoking, and treating music like a poet would, and music just happens to be the canvas that she's painting on. So I've really been enjoying that one, and I've been coming back to it quite regularly. Okay, number 3, these are the top 3, and number 2 and number 3 kind of go back and forth, because these two came out of nowhere, and this is the kind of music that I absolutely love between these two musics. And I was really hoping that 2024 would give me a lot more of this style of music. So I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get more, but what we got, I absolutely love, and I love to feast on. Number 3 is Kairos with their album Mannequin. Shelby is at the top of her game on this record. This was the introduction that I had to Kairos, and I absolutely fell in love with this record. The album itself, I've been spinning practically nonstop since it dropped, back in the wintertime. So the longevity that this album has held, the stay power that this album has had, I have been floored, and there's so many tracks on here that I would say are like sounds of the year for me. And yeah, I keep coming back to it. And part of what I love about this is how joyful and how optimistic so much of the sounds are on this record, because I don't know, I feel like prog for the longest time just got so dour and so depressive, and I think part of that was like the Steven Wilson effect, where he was just very doom and gloom, very melodramatic, and because he was one of the first big capital P prog artists to hit the scene, even though he shunned that for the longest time, so many of those who had been influenced by him wanted to continue that depressiveness. So I'm glad to see a band like Kairos coming in and just really shrugging that off and being like, nah, we want to play some happy, good music. And I'm here for it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, Mannequin has been an album that I've had on pretty consistent repeat and rotation since it dropped. And another album that has been on constant repeat is the album at number 2, and it's a new album. A new artist reached out to me, and I was just floored by it, and that was Elmo with his album of Reconciliation. This is just like what I loved about artists like No Spoon from last year, or the Anchoret, or those kinds of like brand new artists that come on and they're wearing their influences on the sleeves, but they're doing something different and they're doing something new and unique. And I feel as though Elmo was doing that with bands like Haken, like Tesseract, like Periphery, but moving the music forward as well. Like, you can definitely see the influences, but you can see how they're moving the music forward. And I really, really have been enjoying this. The 20-minute epic that this album ends on is what I want more prog albums to end on. I want and I crave those big 20-minute epics. That's what I love about progressive rock, and that's what I want to hear. So I really hope we get some more big epics this year that really stick the landing, because so far, outside of the title track from this record, there hasn't really been that big epic that I've really loved. So yeah, that brings us to number 1, the album that I've loved this year so far. And if you've been following my channel and if you watched the reviews, this one shouldn't come as any kind of a surprise. It's The Last Dinner Party with their album Prelude to Ecstasy. Absolutely loved this record. Holy jeez. This one has probably had the most amount of spins this year. It dropped, really deep in winter. And what these girls are able to do within this kind of fun pop Baroque style of popular music is very similar to kind of what Kate Bush was doing in the late 70s. And I cannot wait to hear more music from these girls. I wish I could see them live, but my wallet isn't that deep right now. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's super fun. It's super catchy. The lyrics are just so infectious. I love these girls, and I love what they did with this record. So yeah, it's really held the number 1 spot the moment that it dropped, and I'm going to be shocked if anything takes the crown from these guys on the King of the Hill. But we'll see. We'll see. We still have another half a year to go through. So those are my top 10 with a couple honorable mentions. What are your favorite records that have dropped this year? Let me know of your top 5 or your top 10, heck, even your top 20. Let me know all about that by commenting down below. Also, let me know about my own pick. Where did I go right? Where did I go wrong? How does my list compare to your list? What were some of the albums that I missed talking about? Let me know all about that by commenting down below, because that's all I've got for you guys today. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing all right. I hope that this year has been treating you good. And we'll see you in the second half of 2024. Really looking forward to some of the new releases that are coming. We'll see how the rest of this year pans out. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.